Hey, it's Mitch from Should Have Bought That. Today we have Kylie from KE Property Styling. She's run her own styling business for the past 14 years. She has huge contracts with most of the major agents. She'll tell you everything you need to know about property styling. Let's jump into it. Kylie, welcome to Should Have Bought That. Thanks for coming.
No worries. Thank you.
So Kylie, you're a property stylist and you have been for 14 years now. Tell us about your story coming from banking and finance and now obviously starting your own business.
15 years in banking and finance, but mostly probably from the retail environment into what we call learning and development space, so facilitating and doing a lot of different workshop type stuff
Yep.
and traveling nationally because kind of feel like all those skills led me to this moment of, that crazy rush between getting a property ready for sale.
Yep.
Really interested, did our own projects, did our own renos, subdivisions and all sorts of stuff and kind of thought, wow, I think I want to be an interior designer. Was still working full time, started studying interior design, and a real estate agent we had bought and sold with quite a few times said to me, I really need your help. Can you start consulting for me? And honestly, that's the first time I realized that there was this property styling type industry. I had no
It's like an
idea.
unknown industry, isn't it?
Yeah, like 14 years ago, the conversation was, have you thought about potentially buying some things, potentially hiring some things, having the same conversations over and over again, and really introducing it to clients? Where now the conversation is, I need styling.
Yeah. So it's
It's
completely shifted in
so
your time.
different. Yeah.
When it comes to styling a property, obviously our audience is a lot of first home buyers or people looking to buy a property.
Yep.
Any first tips how to style a home? So basic needs, how would you go about it?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's about really thinking about removing yourself and the way that you feel about a property. And potentially, if you didn't want to engage in professional advice, at least having a friend come over, having a fresh set of eyes come through and just really give you some advice about how the property presents. Because I think you kind of hear typical advice about, making sure you don't have any maintenance issues and that sort of thing. But for me, it's about creating a sense of arrival. And that sense of arrival for me starts as you pull up out the front of the property. And for me, it's about that cohesive story. So the minute that you see the house on the outside, that it should tell a similar story. So if the house is really maintained and it's been modernized and all those kind of things, then that's what I would expect to see on the inside. If it's Federation and it's a really sort of heritage style house, but it's got a modern explosion on the outside, like that's fine. But I think there has to be a tie-in and creating that theme. So
You can't have a contrast of the front and then
I think it's where the professional advice would probably give you a little bit more value, but ideally is I think people sometimes forget that the presentation does start. A lot of people when you have your house on the market, people will be doing drive-bys. They'll get excited about it, they'll see it online,
they'll
they'll
go at
do a
night
quick
time
suss it
and
out.
daytime as
Yeah.
well.
And they
Yep.
want to do that. They want to see like who's parking their 20-ton truck out the front of their house, starting a truck engine. So that's the kind of thing that, we don't necessarily look for as property stylists, but we need to think about that people are doing drive-bys and then as soon as they park, they're entering the home and it really start to get a bit of a buzz about what they're about to see.
Good advice. I like it. Obviously, a lot of your core business is from agents, etc., and your relationships you built with them over a long period of time. What are they looking for? Might be a stupid question in terms of selling the property. Like, is there something common that they always want? Is it something quite basic and like appealing to obviously a mass of people, or does it depend on the property?
I think it depends on the property, it depends on the area. I service a lot of different agents at a lot of different property price points. And I think the common theme between a lot of agents, in my experience, is they want a fuss free solution. They want me to contact the client. They want to be informed when it's, that the client's been seen, that the install's been booked, and that it's been done, and that we're not going to let them down. And that client's going to have a really positive experience because that reflects heavily on them. And hopefully, that all goes so beautifully and it's nurtured so well that we get to do it all again.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So mostly I think that's what they're after. I think agents are probably like everybody else. They're still trying to achieve an outcome. So they need a property stylist to be flexible. They need them to be adaptable. It's not one shoe fits, all.
Yeah. So you're
So
almost part of their team, essentially. So client comes in or vendor comes in and then, yeah.
I mean, that's what we want. We want to be part of your team
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're such an important part. And I always say to my team, like, we're such an important part of the process because quite often an agent could be prospecting for a long time, sometimes years before they get that listing. And then they finally get the listing, and you don't want them to have a bad experience staging. And then we let that client down. So, and we're only there for a short period of time before the videographer gets in, the photographer, and all the other pieces. So, we can't let you down.
Is there a difference in style between, obviously, like an entry level property, like an apartment that might be catered to a different market, and then obviously your high end?
Yeah.
How much effort goes, like, is it the same amount of effort that goes into each, or is there more detail in a
It's a
high end
good
property?
question, and I think it depends on the different stylists, and sometimes when we're getting asked to quote and I'm sort of talking about, like, comparing quotes, especially if people are saying, "Well, I think that this quote seems a little bit more basic," or maybe you have too much stock. I think it depends on the actual stylist, and that's probably one of my, advice for your audience is you gotta compare apples with apples, and I think sometimes people are very price focused, but it's like, what are you actually getting? For me, staging has to enhance a house. It has to make it feel more expensive. That's the point. It has to be seen as an investment. So, depending on the property stylist, for me, for example, is I keep about 3,000 stock items of what I'm going to suggest are the same kind of level.
Right.
So, if I'm doing a $250,000 property or a $3 million property, you're not going to get different stock from me because my price point's the same. And the way that I'd try and educate you, because I like to educate people, is that it doesn't cost me any less to move a broken couch or a $10,000 couch. I still have to pay the laborers to carry it. I still have to pay the same insurance. Everything's still the same. So you're paying for a quality and a quantity
Yeah.
for the outcome.
Yeah. Love that. Do you have a tip for styling, like, each sector of a house or something? Is there something we can walk into a bathroom and go, you need this?
Yeah, I think that there's common items, and I think that as we continue to grow and we want to find a point of difference, it's really hard to find a point of difference in a really flooded industry. So, typically you walk into a bathroom and you might have some pumped soaps and you'll have potentially a potted plant or some florals and some folded towels. But it's like, how creative can I make this setup? As a standard. So I think that it's about creating a sense of arrival. Generally, that would involve console, a buffet, artwork, potted plant. Like we try and keep the norms with all the layers that people would expect. But it's a good question because as you head into different price points, and different agents. Like, let's say, for example, you end up in like a $15 million, really trendy, high end. You'd end up some really edgy pieces, and you might end up with a weird little timber chair and one linen doona and a beautiful cushion that maybe the Northern Suburbs client might not get, depending on what they're looking at. It looks beautiful in a Vogue magazine, but doesn't transfer so well into a West Meadows in store. So it depends on the client.
Cool. Is there a styling tip that you do that adds value, that might be your bread and butter, that you go, yep, this is what we generally do with most of our places?
Yeah, there's a typical age property that we tend to bump into in our target market, which is probably a house that maybe was built 18, 25, 30 years and plus, and they were originally built with formal dining rooms.
Yes.
It's like quite a common one.
Is everything sort of cornered off like a formal dining room? Like
Yeah,
everything's like
and
in
it could be quite
squares?
common. Yeah, so you'd walk into, potentially a formal sitting room, a formal dining room. But what we're finding, and it's not one shoe, fits all. But ideally, the modern family doesn't necessarily want that set up anymore. And I think if COVID taught us anything, it taught us to live in our houses, probably try and live in all our houses. So depending on the house, depending on the target market and how the house moves, which is really important, and the size of those rooms, quite often a common one would be to convert that dining room into a home office.
Gotcha.
It might not be that we would add, we definitely wouldn't add doors and build in a fully enclosed in space. But the point of property styling is sometimes we just plant a seed, and that seed's enough for people to go, oh, this could be a kid's playroom,
Clever.
or it could be, yeah, a home office if the house doesn't allow for one, or even a downstairs bedroom.
Yep. I like it. You often see that when you walk into open homes and there's like a little nook or something, and you're like, oh, that could be a nice little office. I could work there. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
actually
right.
great. Why wouldn't agents get a property styled? Yeah, we walk into some properties, you're like, this would have done well with what feels like some sort of styling. What's their thought process around that? Is it lack of time or haven't got the right people in their team, or is it generally a dedicated
Yeah, from what I
result?
hear, I think it can depend on the age of the agent, and quite often what I hear is the agent's clientele. So I had an agent the other day say to me, I really like, I want to use you. I totally advocate for styling. I have no issue with the investment of styling, but my demographic, my database, so they mostly support a rental portfolio. They might be, let's say, older demographic, potentially European, and they're like, they just don't want to invest. The properties are tired, they're falling apart, they've been rentals for 20 or 30 years, and they just won't get their head around spending any money on them.
Right. So it's almost too tired and just had enough.
And I think that I can sympathize with an agent is, again, if you put too much pressure, you'll lose a listing. So it's like that's their bread and butter as well. So yeah, we don't take that personally. Sometimes an agent will say to us, "Oh, look, we did suggest." I'm like, absolutely not watching what you're doing. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. In terms of, obviously, you mentioned you have what, 3,000 pieces of stock, etc.
yeah,
How often are you buying and transacting in terms of buying stock? Like how,
yeah.
like daily?
Look, I married an accountant, so that's his version of a nightmare.
The odd couple, yeah.
So I'm constantly in finance conversations, but ideally, the buying part, which is probably what people see to be the most fun part, and the cushions and the decor, it's actually a bit stressful. And now that there's people in my team that take a lot of that pressure off as well, they're like, "Oh my God, like I thought this would be fun. It's not fun at all." And it isn't, because we're trying to buy potentially timeless pieces that could fit into multiple properties that you don't want to keep seeing over and over again.
Yes, it's
It's
fascinating. Like your
really
rotation of the
difficult.
stock itself, or
Yeah.
like you'd probably use a couple and then it'd be front of mind, and then you got to try and
It's really hard, but, no, I want every single stock item in that range operating and being used at 90% of the time. Anything sitting on shelves in my warehouse is not great. It's not great for business either. So it's not like we're preparing for a warehouse sale at the moment, because if it hasn't moved and we haven't used it in 12 months, we have to really question, why is it there? We can't have something sitting there for that one time we get that weird corner where that weird dog statue can.
for prospective home buyers walking into a property, how much should they take notice of the styling? Is it something that they should take a lot of notice of, or something they should look past? Genuine question.
Yeah, I think for us is we're never going to hit 100% of the market. And I think that's the reality of it. I think for me, staging has to take you off the couch to want to see a property. So we're not there for the buyers that are saying, I don't need to see it staged. It's fine. We're not here for you. But we might be here for your girlfriend or for your mother, who's coming through the property as well. So we need to get you off the couch. That's what you're doing, is you've got 6 seconds in a realestate.com ad or domain or whoever your sponsors are.
Haven't got any, but
No,
anyway, we'll just.
or open to sponsors to get you off the couch. And when you turn up, that's what we want you to do. And the idea is it's just got to invite you in. When you're in and you're comfortable, and we're going to talk, we're talking very heavily about what people are seeing, but it's also how you're feeling. People want to connect with a lifestyle that they don't have, a new massive home office that they never thought about. They could add some bifold doors and stuff like that. And then once we invite you in and you're comfortable, then you stay. Because if you think about when you walk into an empty house that smells, that's, empty, it's cold, you want to rush in and you want to rush out. But when you're comfortable and you're enjoying what you're seeing, then the idea is I've asked you to stay with the beautiful styling. And then I'm potentially getting you to now look at this, square set cornices that has actually got heating and cooling.
So you actually turn more to the practical side
Yeah,
of
well,
the house.
ideally is then you're there and you're probably noticing more. If you're rushing in and out,
It's
you
very
won't
true.
notice it as much. And staging is selling a lifestyle of how our life can be, but I don't think anyone can actually achieve. It's like a brand new build, and having those houses, there's builders fit out those houses with hundreds and thousands of dollars of finishes that people probably don't achieve, and if they do, the house will never look like that
Yeah,
again.
exactly. Is there anything or any cheap trends that you might stay away from, or anything you wouldn't put in a home to style it?
Yeah, we try and think about trends because it's sort of that example that I gave a bit earlier. Just because we're seeing it and we have our finger on the pulse and we're seeing it in beautiful magazines and publications that we're looking at regularly, it doesn't mean that our actual client and our target base actually understand it. So an example of that is at the moment the trend is like a doona cover or a coverlet that pretty much covers your bed and it covers the 2 pillows within the bed as well, almost like your grandma kinda had, and it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful look. The linen goes to the ground. It's very simple. There's a little bit of a less is more vibe, but the first time we did it, the client was probably, in her late 50s to 60s, and she's like, "Hey, I didn't get it. And it looks like something my grandma had. And, would you mind coming, adding some euros and, something that she was reflecting was styling. And it was a nice reminder to my team that's a bit younger to sort of say, just because it's in a magazine and it's on trend doesn't mean our clients get it. It doesn't mean that the next 16 installs didn't work, but that particular client. So it's got to come down to client satisfaction as well.
Yep. Brilliant. So, Kylie, when it comes to styling for different areas, if you've got a inner north townhouse, so Fitzroy, Northcote, etc., how do you style that differently to a Bayside property in Hampton next to the beach?
Yeah, we keep, as we mentioned, the range that we have, and I try and keep all of those to one-off pieces. So we can really mix and match to alter depending on the look that we want to achieve. So it does come down to, for me, the property value. Then sometimes the agent and the client has weigh in. But if it's a question about our look, the way that we manage that is we actually have a lookbook on our website. For a client that says to us, look, I really trust you. I'd love to engage you, but I'm just not sure about what I'm going to get. Because sometimes clients think as part of this process is they're going to get mood boards. They're going to get a list of items that they're going to be able to say, yes, I want that couch. No, I don't want that armchair. And it's not an interior design service. It's a fast design service for a 6-week campaign that's not necessarily tailored to what you like and what you don't like. So I normally say, look, if you've got any concerns, what I'm thinking of, so we do 2 looks. We do modern neutral or contemporary designer. And what we do is I generally will say, this is what I'm thinking. Modern neutral, it's a little bit softer. It's got a little bit more calming. This house has a lot of personality. This will work best. Or I think we should go a little bit more designer, a little bit more edgy. Bring
Gotcha.
Vincent.
So, two distinct styles, essentially. You work with. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's 2025 now, obviously, but what's changing in styling and the way you deal with customers?
Yeah, I find that there's a client or what I'm going to call an avatar that keeps popping up in my world, which is probably a middle-aged woman who potentially knows what she wants. It's potentially her property. She's very connected to it. There's potentially a lot of emotions involved. So sometimes that client can be very concerned about what they want. And it can be treated a little bit like an interior design process. And that's where we like to sort of spend some time educating, say, look, actually, we do have our looks. It will be consistent with the quality and the quantity that you see across all our platforms. But if you do want a more specialized, tailored service, we can definitely offer that at an additional hourly fee. Yep. So I feel like it's kind of a mix between I want what I want and then I want an opportunity to pretend I'm on the block. I want to go shopping.
This age of, those reality TV shows, everyone's a stylist in
Yeah.
some aspect.
I was saying to someone earlier this morning, like it's almost like they're just, there's a certain demographic out there that are just begging for their husband to let them use a credit card in Kmart. Just let me buy whatever I want. It's for the house. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars on styling. But the problem is, it's like, who's bringing the couch? Everybody can style the bathroom. The kitchen, you can style the kitchen. It's not really styling. It's like, where's the dining table coming from? Who's transporting it? It's the stuff that doesn't fit in your car.
Yeah, very true. What type of property do you get most excited about styling?
Yeah, it's my favorite, and when I feel like it's so nice doing a beautiful new build with all the beautiful textures and everything. That's obviously, but I love like a 60s or 70s brown brick, multicolored tiles. they're a real challenge because, it's almost like that's what staging's designed for. You generally have a good amount of land, like this is the investor in me. You have a great location, you have a solid product. She's a bit tired, but like, how can we show you how this could be an option? So I always talk about like magic. I have a magic wand and it's furniture. And I can enhance a house with furniture and artwork and beautiful decor. We don't have to render the walls.
I like it. Kylie, that was a very insightful discussion. Thank you. I actually learnt a lot, and I might take a few things away with my own property. But thanks for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you.
That was Kylie from KE Property Styling. She taught us all about how to style your property, how to level up your own home, and the changing trends we're seeing in the current market. Hope to see you next time.